times when we flat out sucked, and there's been times when we've made asses of ourselves, and there's been times when we've been great, you know. But, you know, here we are, 12 years later, and we're still doing our thing. It's kind of crazy.
Crazy is certainly one way of describing the last 12 chaotic years in the career of rock's punk-funk kings, the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Now, with Dave Navarro, their seventh guitar player on board, the group has unveiled a new album, 1 Hot Minute, and something of a new sound, too. Chili Peppers burbled up out of the LA hardcore scene in 1984, and over the course of 6 albums, they've weathered an ever-changing lineup, drug addictions, 1 overdose death, a couple of sex lawsuits, and yet still managed to come up with some interesting uses for the common sock.
When the Red Hot Chili Peppers started, they started this band as a joke. It was a very explosive combination of people. It was an explosive time for us.
I found the guys in high school. High school's where I found them. And they found me.
The Chili Peppers saga begins at Fairfax High School in West Hollywood, class of 1980. Originally, the band included Jack Irons on drums and Hillel Slovak on guitar, but when they were offered a record deal, Slovak and Irons decided to cast their lot with another group called What Is This? And the Chili Peppers had to assemble a new lineup.
Suddenly, the same month that we got a record deal as the Red Hot Chili Peppers, What Is This got a record deal. And Jack and Hillel said, you know what, Flea and Anthony, we're very sorry, but we're going to go with What Is This because we've been together for 9 years, and you guys are probably going to, you know, pop and fizzle.
But the band didn't fizzle. It dove right into the explosive LA hardcore scene of the early 1980s. There, the Chili Peppers created a unique musical fusion incorporating the sexual charge of primal funk and a hard-nosed new urban element called rap.
We play bone-crunching mayhem funk. We play it hard, and our motto is always play like you have a big...
The band built its fan base on volcanic live performances and quickly attracted the allegiance of Southern California's skateboarding subculture. The basic attitude was punk, funk, and lots of skin.
Just the chemistry of Flea and I being best friends for so long, or on and off best friends, the chemistry just turns into pure crazed energy. And we've got a record. The record comes out on August 18th. It's called The Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's going to be the wildest, craziest, zaniest, movingest, groovingest thing you ever heard.
It's an explosion of color and sound. It'll boggle your mind and bedoozle your booty.
A record kind of fell halfway into the land of mediocrity and wasn't as good as it could have been.
That I think the songs on it are really good, and we had like a really intense, fiery emotion at that time, and we didn't capture it at all.
Now for the second record, Hillel Slovak decided to quit What Is This and come play music with us, which was grand.
He and I and Anthony had a special bond that could never be replaced by anything. We just love each other, you know. I don't think we could stay away from each other for too long. We were extraordinarily close.
We fired the first guy, or the second guy who played on the first record, who's actually the third son of the former daughter involved with the cousin that actually invented electricity, but I forget exactly who the mom was.
The Chili Peppers' purest funk statement was recorded with visionary producer and Parliament Funkadelic legend George Clinton.
I got to live with George Clinton, and we had a really wild, crazy time. You know, I happen to really have an affinity for the funk. It does something to my body that makes life worth living.
My man. So we just got little tastes and inklings of funk along the way, but the more we got exposed to it, the more I think we intuitively recognized that it had a very powerful emotional and physical effect on the human body.
Lyrically, the Chili Peppers were committed to the subject of sex.
I find sex very inspirational. I've often written about it in music because there's a very powerful and direct correlation between sexual energy and musical energy.
For their third album, the Chili Peppers' old high school pal Jack Irons returned to the drum chair, thus reuniting the original band.
We got the original lineup back. We got Jack Irons back. We have this one song in this record called Organic Anti-Beatbox Band. We weren't supposed to be a band of rap, you know, you're supposed to have turntables and drum machines and stuff. And at the time, I was so anti that stuff, I was like, it's not organic, there's no live music on it.
Down man's come, but now we jam with the uplift, boom, boom, how do you play? With the organic anti-beatbox band.
This is like the last record we made with Hillel. This is a mighty fine record.
The Chili Peppers had never been strangers to drugs, and by the spring of 1988, both Anthony and Hillel had become heroin addicts. They kicked for a while, but Hillel secretly relapsed, and on June 27th, he was found in his apartment, dead of an overdose.
You know, no one gives you a manual for this when you're a kid. You just sort of figure it out as you go along, and sometimes things happen too quickly and too tragically for you to ever gain the experience that it takes to get over that hump and on to a new way of dealing with this pain. You know, perhaps a more spiritual way of dealing with the pain.
Hillel was one of the closest friends I've ever had in my life. A complete brother, soulmate, the kind of guy that like understood things about me that will never be understood again, you know, since he died.
He's been dead for almost 7 years. And I look back in my memory at things that he did and said and created, you know, 10 years ago that I didn't understand at the time. But now, I'm just now getting it. Now it makes sense to me 10 years later. So he was sort of like 10 years ahead of me in a lot of areas.
My lovely man.
Based on the double Fs, the funk and the friendship. You know, being in this band is it's like being married to 4 guys at once, and you really have to love the guy, not all the time, but most of the time.
Welcome to MTV!
MTV, the place to be.
Red Hot Chili Blahs with blah blah under the blah.
Blah, 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 you got to give the blah.
The death of Hillel Slovak was a major blow to the Chili Peppers, but the band soldiered on with a new young guitarist, John Frusciante, and with Jack Irons having quit amid the post-Hillel chaos, a new drummer, Chad Smith. In this incarnation, the group released its 4th album, Mother's Milk.
We recorded Mother's Milk in the beginning of '89, and that was a record that was sort of like the breakthrough record for the Chili Peppers. And so, you know, I feel that it could be coincidence or, you know, timing or whatever, but right when I joined, the band became very popular and well-respected.
Chad Smith is a very big guy. He's 6'3". I like to refer to him as a very wild, psychedelic herd of stompeding rhinoceroses on the drums.
First record, John Frusciante joined the band, amazing young kid. We'd find this kid on guitar who just wails, you know, who just is musically knowledgeable.
John Frusciante was a huge Hillel Slovak fan and a student of Hillel, more or less.
And after a while, as you know, he was in the band, he started developing his own sense of aesthetics and his own sense of creating art, and it was a really good thing, and he ended up writing some really great music with us.
Push him around because he's only 19 years old.
What do you think about that, John?
I deal with it. I'm so happy to be in the greatest band in the world. I just couldn't be happy. And he's a ticklish guy in the band.
We had our first, like, semi-hit, Higher Ground. It's the first time we sold any records.
Stevie begged us, called me like twice a day for about a month, just begging us to do Higher Ground. And I said, Stevie, get off my back. You know, I don't have time to cover your song. I've got my own songs to be playing here. And Stevie, his persistence was rather amazing. And after he decided to pay us a substantial amount of money to cover his song, we finally agreed.
By this point, Anthony Kiedis was finally drug-free.
Anthony was really very freshly sober. He was really discovering a new world of what it was like to be straight, you know, and very into letting people know about it.
Mother's Milk went gold, the Chili Peppers' first real hit. But along with fame came court cases prompted by the group's irrepressible sexual hijinks, which female plaintiffs saw as sexual assault.
We've been unfortunate for both of us to have lawsuits and stuff, and you know, I know that in our time we have made mistakes and have hurt people's feelings, but neither of us have ever hurt anyone or tried to hurt anyone in our lives.
In an unprecedented move, the Chili Peppers did not change their lineup for their next album, Blood Sugar Sex Magic.
We're making a record here in this house. It's the first time that we've ever made a record with the exact same lineup twice in a row.
The group did, however, change labels and producers, bringing in rap and thrash guru Rick Rubin.
If Baron von Munchausen had ejaculated the four of us, being the Red Hot Chili Peppers, onto a chessboard, I would have to say that Rick Rubin would be the perfect chess player.
What I got, you got to give it to your mama. Hurt me, you can't hurt me. Suck my kiss.
There's a song on our new record called Under the Bridge, and that song came about because during the course of my life, I was what you might call a hardcore junkie for many years. The crux of the song is based on loneliness, and there's this one little lyrical phrase that comes in at the very end of the song, which says, "Under the bridge downtown is where I drew some blood. Under the bridge downtown, forgot about my love. Under the bridge downtown, I could not get enough. Under the bridge downtown, I gave my life away."
This is a record that made us all millionaires, you know. We changed from being like regular guys to being guys that had $1 million, you know, which makes it different, you know. And we went and toured our asses off. Have fun, boys.
My kiss.
You know, all of a sudden we achieved all this success. We got lots of money and all this stuff, and it was kind of, everything fell apart for me. We've been on tour for a long time right now without any rest, and I'm a wreck. Look at me, I'm a wreck. I haven't slept, I haven't eaten right, it's crazy.
The other day, Flea woke up.
I only weighed 3 pounds.
3 pounds.
3 pounds.
That's right.
I'm back up to 4.5 now. It was really hard. I didn't sleep, no one was getting along. John was really unhappy being in the band. The record's still good. Touring for it was rough. It's kind of sad.
Exhausted and unhappy, John Frusciante quit the Chili Peppers very suddenly midway through the band's 1992 world tour.
We were just lost. We were completely lost and struggling to keep things going like we've always done. And I guess in the back of our hearts we knew that somehow it had to work out.
Another Los Angelino, Rick Marshall, was brought in to fill the Chili Peppers' latest guitar vacancy, but he quickly faded from the scene, and the group was reduced to actually advertising for a replacement.
The whole putting an ad in the paper and trying guitar players out, it was just every freak from everywhere showed up, you know, guys painted in yellow and trying to be wacky, and other guys, you know, that were surfers and had their little 8x10, and I want to try to be a guitar player. I mean, we opened ourselves up to it, but it turned out to be kind of a nightmare.
The band already had its eye on guitarist Dave Navarro of Jane's Addiction, and after cornering him at a jam session one day, they finally secured his services.
Chili Peppers have had lots of members, mostly guitar players. Kind of like the drummer in Spinal Tap was kind of the guitar player for the Chili Peppers. Dave has these little guitar picks with every name of the guitarist on them. There's like 6 or 7, and there's a question mark after his name. It's his sense of humor, you know, his pessimistic kind of sense of humor.
We're into a whole new dimension of sound, which is really great. And on top of that, I was just thinking earlier today that I think that right now we're at the 3rd high point of our career musically. You know, when Hallel left, it was the end of a huge era. John leaving was the end of another era, you know, and it's a new era, and it feels damn good, too. When Dave joined the band, we had to work a lot to find common ground. And I mean, we had similar ideals of what we wanted to do musically, but aesthetically, it was difficult at first.
My biggest fear was that I'd be asked to do, like, you know, stuff that I wasn't comfortable doing. The light bulb helmet was one of those. In theory, it sounded like a great idea, but in actuality, it was like the most horrible uncomfortable, like, terrible thing.
2 minutes before we went on stage, we're in the back, like, plugging it in, and does it work? And I don't know, does yours work? I had a good seat. See these 3 guys I'm playing, and they're very heavy, the light bulbs, right? So, but I'm sitting down, get these harnesses, but the other 2 guys, they're playing. Give it away, give it away.
Give it away, give it away, give it away now. Give it away, give it away, give it away now.
But the bright side to that was that it was such like a terrible ordeal just to walk out on stage at Woodstock and having that be my first show with this band, that when I put that helmet on my head, I was so uncomfortable and upset about that I didn't even notice that there were people out there.
Just so you know, Dave hated the light bulb idea. We forced him to do it.
Dave Navarro's thick Marshall Stack sound has changed the landscape of the Chili Peppers' music and part of its heart, too.
I'm just a totally different guitar player than the ones they've worked with in the past. You know, I work with a lot more of a thicker sound and more affected.
The result, while still funky, leans more emphatically toward rock.
That's just a natural progression of us being, honestly, who we are now with this particular lineup of people.
Having helmed the mega-successful Blood Sugar Sex Magic, producer Rick Rubin was called in once again for One Hot Minute.
Their historical experience has been really first as a funk band. Starting with the last record and really coming into fruition in this record is developing the more melodic side of the band.
I think overall feel of the album is kind of a darker one than the Chili Peppers are used to having.
One Hot Minute, a full year in the making, comes 4 long years after the band's last album.
I cut the drums, the basic tracks, in June of '94.
I don't think that when we started making this record a year ago that I was ready to do what I needed to do for this record. I had to go through a year of emotional and psychological catastrophe to grow, to be in the shape that I needed to be a quarter member of this outfit.
If the new music seems a little dark and maybe strange, that may reflect the traumatic year that went into its recording.
It's about getting through those extra deep, super thick piles of difficult bullshit that one might encounter in the process of living this life and actually making it through to the other side.
The first single is a song called Warped, and it goes, Warped! Like that. Scared you over there.
Lyrics probably have to do with like some life changes that Anthony underwent.
I like it when Anthony says, he says, I'm pretending to be strong and free. I think that's a really courageous thing for him to say.
I'll pretend to be strong and free.
There's a song on the record called Transcending, which Anthony and I wrote the lyrics for, which is about River Phoenix, and I was very, very close to him. River is the kindest person I've ever known in my life. I love him so much. I feel like crying. It's been a very sad time for me. I'd gotten divorced, and I was really very stressed out and very tense. I'm a father. I was away from my daughter. I felt very alone. I didn't have anyone. Felt like no one loved me type of, da-da-da-da-da.
Actually, on this record, there are lyrics penned by Flea. There's a song that he sings called P, which he wrote the lyrics for.
I'm a little pea. I love the sky and the trees. The song P is about me trying to get small. Basically, it's like, that's when I'm happiest, is when I feel the humblest. I'm a pacifist, so I can keep up.
Outstanding lyrics.
The Chili Peppers' new music may seem more serious, but the band's promotional strategy remains the same. Attention shoppers.
I hate band photos. They suck. But of course, Warner Brothers really wants you to do a rock band publicity photo so they can send it out to the newspapers and stuff. So instead of doing that, we just went to Kmart and took photos as a family would. In fact, we all had different members of the family that we were playing. Dave played the disgruntled teenage girl who's just really not happy in the family, doesn't like her parents, is into a much darker side of life and misunderstood. and he played that character very well. Flea played the younger, sort of androgynous child that really isn't all that bright upstairs, but just kind of goes through life, you know, enjoying situations, not having an idea what's going on. I played the older, jockish brother who, you know, just doesn't have a creative side, but is really into his physical side. And Chad played the dad who had just like one too many martinis before the shoot.
As a band, the Red Hot Chili Peppers have been to hell and back more than once. Rarely before, however, has it seemed more certain that they're here to stay.
I really wanted to say to the people of the world that
MTV's First Look. The first with the latest video releases.